Once upon a tall tale. Once Upon a Tall Tale presents The Earl's Road by Morgan Olson, a 50 Roads, 50 Kingdoms series. If you've ever driven the King's Road, you know what kind of road it is. And if you haven't, well, let me tell you about it, and about Earl, because you can't really tell about one without telling about the other. There is a road in this world that runs from Guthrie in the Oklahoma Kingdom all the way up through the flatlands and the tall grass and the old limestone hills into Kansas City, and it is called the King's Road, and it has been called that for as long as anyone presently living can remember, and for quite a bit longer than that besides. It is not the most scenic road in the known kingdoms. Let nobody tell you otherwise. It is flat, like only the middle of a continent is flat, completely, without apology. The sky is enormous. The fields go on until they become the horizon. In the summer, the heat comes up off the asphalt in waves that make the distance shimmer like something that isn't quite real. And in the winter, the wind comes down from the north with nothing to stop it and cuts through a traveling cloak like it has somewhere better to be. There are hawks. There are fence posts. There are grain elevators rising up out of the plains like the monuments of some ancient and practical civilization, which is more or less what they are. But it is a good road, smooth and well kept and wide enough for two wagons to pass without drama. And it is a good road specifically because of money, which is to say specifically because of two men who are cousins and happen to be kings. The King of Oklahoma keeps his court in Guthrie, which surprises people who haven't heard the history. They expect Oklahoma City, which is a reasonable assumption and entirely wrong. The short version is this. There was a day, long enough ago that the participants are all dead, when certain men from the southern part of the kingdom were supposed to come down and take the territorial seal, and thereby move the capital, and those men simply did not do it. Whether through incompetence or conscience or bad weather or a very good lunch that went long, nobody can say. The seal stayed in Guthrie. Guthrie stayed the capital. The King of Oklahoma sits in Guthrie, and that is just how it is. The King of Kansas City sits in Kansas City, which surprises nobody. The two of them are cousins, grew up together, genuinely like each other, as cousins sometimes do when they're lucky. They send letters, they visit during the harvest festivals. They have a long-standing rivalry about smoked meats that has never been formally resolved, and probably never will be, because neither of them wants to be wrong about it badly enough to stop arguing. And because they have known each other since they were boys, neither needs to impress the other. That's rarer between kings than you might think. For many years they have both put significant coin into the King's Road. A good road between their kingdoms benefits everyone. It also means that when either of them wants to make the trip, the road will be smooth the whole way, which is the kind of practical comfort that men who have spent their lives making decisions appreciate more than they will generally admit. Now, once you're on the road, driving north out of Guthrie, the first thing you'll pass that's worth pointing out is the place with the star on the sign. It sits right at the border between the two kingdoms, where the road crosses from Oklahoma into Kansas. It isn't a kingdom. It isn't affiliated with any particular crown. It serves burgers and fried things and large paper cups of sweet cold drinks, and it does this reliably and well, and that is the whole of its ambition. The reason every king in the known world has eaten there at least once, and most of them considerably more than once, is the paper crown. With every combination meal, you receive a small paper crown. It is printed with the star that is the restaurant's emblem, and it fits on a head if you don't mind looking slightly ridiculous. And every monarch who has ever put one on has done so gladly. Anyone can be a king here. The crown costs nothing. It comes with the meal. The great and self-important fact of royal blood, the weight of lineage and obligation and all the rest of it, is sitting right next to a paper hat that a farmer's child could wear with equal legitimacy. The two cousin kings have a game they play. Whoever eats there first on any given road trip must take a photograph wearing the crown and send it to the other. The other must respond with a photograph of their own crown from their most recent visit, however long ago that was. There's an entire archive of these photographs going back 15 years. Both kings deny it is one of their most cherished possessions. Both kings are lying. The place with the star on the sign sits at the border because of course it does. Such places always have sat at borders, in every world and every age, serving hot food to people who have been on the road too long and are beginning to feel it. Now comes the part of the drive I can't put on a map. Somewhere between the border and the northern booth, and I cannot be more specific than that because nobody can, there is a roadside diner called Beto Junction. Sometimes. It is always on the Kansas side. Nobody knows why. Some say it has an opinion about Oklahoma, and that is as far as anyone has gotten. What I can tell you is this. Sometimes you will be driving the King's Road in Kansas, and you will come around a bend or over a small rise, and there it will be. A low building with a gravel lot and a hand-painted sign and the smell of bacon coming through the door before you have even opened it. And other times you will be driving that same stretch of road, looking for it specifically, and there will be nothing there but pasture and fence posts and the long Kansas light. This is not a trick of the road. This is Beto Junction. If it shows up, you stop. You stop whatever you are doing and whatever you are running late for, and you go inside. Because the breakfast at Beto Junction is the best breakfast that has ever been served, anywhere, by anyone. And I am saying this as a man who has eaten breakfast in 7 kingdoms and on 3 coasts. The eggs are exactly the eggs you wanted. The biscuits are warm, and the gravy on the biscuits is the kind of gravy that makes you quiet for a minute. The coffee is hot and bottomless, and tastes like coffee is supposed to taste before the world got hold of it. There is a woman behind the counter who has been behind that counter, by every account, for longer than is reasonable. There is a cook in the back you will not see, but whose hands have been making this exact breakfast since before any of us were born. The people who work at Beto Junction have always worked at Beto Junction. They are pleasant. They will call you honey if you are a woman, and hoss if you are not, and they will refill your coffee without being asked. And the moment your plate is clean, you are no longer welcome. This is not done rudely. There is no announcement. The woman behind the counter will simply appear at your elbow with the bill, and there will be a quality to her smile that lets you know the visit is concluded. You pay, you leave, you do not order pie, you do not linger over your coffee, you do not ask if you can use the restroom one more time. You thank her, and you go. I have been to Beto Junction 3 times in my life, and I consider each of those mornings a small grace. I have also driven past where I was certain it would be a dozen times, and found nothing but grass and wind and a horizon that did not know what I was asking it about. So here is the rule, and you should commit it to memory if you intend to drive that road. Take the opportunity if it shows up. Never go looking for it. People who go looking for Beto Junction do not find it. People who go looking for it twice begin to find that Beto Junction has, in some quiet way, taken offense, and the next time it might have shown up for them in passing, it will instead show up for someone else, somewhere down the road, who was just driving and minding their own business. Do not be the reason a stranger missed a good breakfast. I will tell you one more thing about Beto Junction, and then we will move on, because the place doesn't like being talked about for too long, and I have my superstitions. There is a small, framed photograph on the wall by the register. It shows the 2 cousin kings, sometime in their 20s, sitting at the counter wearing paper crowns from the burger place at the border. Neither of them has ever publicly mentioned eating at Beto Junction. Both of them, in that photograph, look like men who have just had the best breakfast of their lives and have been politely asked to leave. Make of that what you will. Keep going north, and a while later, well into Kansas, you'll come up on the northern toll booth. That booth is run by an Earl whose name I'm not going to give you, partly because he doesn't deserve the breath, and partly because if you've driven the road, you already know which one I mean. The King of Kansas City installed him because his family had a name and connections and not much else. and the king made the appointment with the private thought that the job was simple enough that even this particular young man could not make a disaster of it. This thought would prove in time to be optimistic. He made coin at that booth like small men make coin when handed a position they didn't earn, by making everyone around him slightly more miserable than they needed to be, skimming where he could, and relying on the fact that nobody wanted the bother of dealing with him enough to do anything about it. Every traveler on the road knew him, and none of them liked him, and all of them paid, because the alternative was worse. He was, in short, a little brat, and the road tolerated him the way a river tolerates a bad bridge. At the southern end, they put Earl. Earl's full name and title were longer than just Earl, technically, but nobody used any of it. He was Earl. He had been Earl his whole life, which had been a source of some amusement during his youth, and was now simply a fact about him. The way his height was a fact about him, and his handshake was a fact about him, both of which were considerable. The earldom had been given to him because he had earned it, through a combination of competence and fairness, and the particular quality that is hardest to name, but easiest to recognize when you encounter it. He was a man that things went right around, not through luck exactly, more through attention. He noticed things. He handled them before they became problems. He knew every regular traveler on the road by name, knew their business and their families, and whether they preferred to be greeted warmly or left in peace. And he extended the same courtesy to the farmers who came to the edge of the road to catch pheasants that had gotten away from them. The farmers knew better than to actually get on the king's road, of course. It wasn't their road. But Earl never made them feel bad about the pheasants. What very few people knew about Earl, because Earl was not the sort of man who mentioned it, was that he had a working knowledge of several spells, had been a genuinely formidable swordsman in his younger years, and still kept a blade of quality behind the booth that he knew how to use. He was not a violent man. He had simply come up in a time and a place where competence included knowing how to handle yourself, and he had never entirely put that knowledge down. The bandits knew, not from experience, since none of them had been stupid enough to try Earl directly, but the knowledge circulated in the way important knowledge does, passed between campfires and roadside inns and the quiet corners of taverns where men discussed the geography of risk. Earl's stretch of the King's Road was simply not worth the trouble. There were easier roads. There were always easier roads when a man like Earl was standing at the end of this one. So he ran his booth through the days with the easy authority of a man who has never needed to prove himself twice. And when the sun began to set, he would hand off to the night shift and go home, and the road would continue its business without him. This worked for some years, until the night the relief didn't show up. Earl stood at the booth as the light went gold and then copper, and then started toward gray, and he watched the road and waited. He waited 45 minutes past the hour, which was longer than he strictly needed to, because he was a fair man and was willing to allow for the possibility of an honest delay. When the honest delay failed to materialize into an actual person, he shrugged in the particular way of a man who was not surprised but had been hoping to be, locked up the booth, and went home. In the morning, he placed an advertisement in the local Guthrie paper. "Night position available," it said. "Toll booth, south end of the King's Road. Reliable character required. Inquire with Earl." What followed was instructive. The troll they hired first seemed promising. He was present, which put him ahead of his predecessor, and he was serious about the work, completely and without nuance, as trolls generally are. He took the tolls. He did not engage in unnecessary conversation. For 2 months, Earl had nothing to complain about. Then one morning, Earl came in 3 hours late. The troll had turned to stone. He was standing right where he should have been, at the window of the booth, hand still slightly extended in the position of receiving coin, and he was entirely and completely stone, because that is what trolls become when the sun catches them, and Earl had not been there to send him home before dawn. Earl looked at him for a while. He was not, technically speaking, a bad piece of statuary. Earl had him moved carefully to the side of the road, where he stood for several months before someone from the troll's family came to collect him. No hard feelings. It had been Earl's fault as much as anyone's, but the position was open again. The swordsman they hired next was exceptional with a blade, as Earl had confirmed personally during the interview, and had, within 3 weeks of starting the night shift, entered into private correspondence with the wives of 4 members of the Kingsguard, 2 knights-errant, and a duchess who had been passing through on her way to visit relatives. He was let go before the situation could develop further. The situation developed further anyway, but that is a different story, and not Earl's problem specifically, except in the sense that everything on his stretch of road was vaguely his problem. After that, there was a period of miscellaneous applicants, none of whom were quite right for reasons that were clear to Earl immediately and took longer to explain to others. And then Laplid came. Laplid was a wizard of the Middle Order, which is to say he was accomplished enough to be worth taking seriously, but not so grand that he was above working for a wage. He was somewhere between 40 and 70, as wizards often appear to be, with a beard that suggested wisdom and eyes that suggested he was always calculating something slightly to the left of whatever he was saying out loud. He told Earl his schedule was complicated, but that he could, through the application of a particular discipline of temporal compression, manage to work all 7 nights of the week in what would functionally amount to a single working session on his end. Wizards always explain things this way, just enough specificity to seem credible, just enough vagueness to avoid accountability. Earl was a practical man. He did not entirely understand the magic, but he understood the outcome being offered. Reliable night coverage, fair wage, no more advertisements in the paper, and no more stone trolls beside the road. He thought about it for approximately the length of time it took him to walk from one end of the booth to the other and back again, and then he agreed. They negotiated a wage that was fair on both sides. They shook hands. Laplid began the following Monday. For 6 months, everything was fine. Earl would leave as the sun touched the horizon, and by the time the first stars were visible, there would be a figure in the booth, taking tolls, making change, waving travelers through. The collections were right every morning. The booth was undamaged. No complaints came up from the road. I'll tell you now what Earl didn't know, because I have the benefit of telling the story after it happened, and Earl had the disadvantage of living through it. The figure in the booth was not Laplid. By the time Earl heard the first story, the booth had been on its own for 5 months. A traveler paying his toll, still wearing a paper crown from the place at the border, mentioned that folks up that way were saying the booth at the south end had been strange lately. He did not appear to notice he was saying this to the booth's own Earl, at the booth's own window, in the middle of the afternoon. Earl thanked him and tucked it away. People say all sorts of things on a long road. The second story came 2 weeks later from a wagon driver Earl had known 15 years, who had stopped paying tolls in cash and started leaving small gifts instead. A jar of preserves, a length of good rope, once a hand-carved whistle. The driver said the booth seemed to prefer it that way. Earl asked him what he meant by the booth seemed to prefer it. The driver thought about it and said he wasn't sure exactly, but it had felt rude not to. Earl tucked that away too. The third story came from a minister of the King of Kansas City, which meant it could not be ignored. The minister came to Earl directly because he liked Earl, as most people did, and told him what had happened. The booth had extended itself in a manner that was not architecturally consistent with the stationary structure, and had demanded additional coin beyond the standard toll, and had been quite firm about it. Earl thanked the minister, assured him the matter would be addressed, and waited until that evening. He left at sunset, as usual. Then he doubled back. He came up the road on foot, quietly, from the south. About a quarter mile out, he could hear it. Voices, laughter, the particular sound of a good time being had by people who are not thinking about tomorrow. He came over a small rise in the road and saw it. The booth was lit from within, warm orange light coming through every gap in the wood. Outside, arranged in a loose and comfortable circle, were 7 or 8 individuals who had the look of men who lived outdoors by preference and necessity. Between them was a keg of something that was clearly working. The booth itself was, there is no other word for it, leaning in a way that suggested contentment. And from within it came a voice that Earl recognized as the voice of his toll booth, holding forth on some subject with evident enthusiasm, and the bandits were laughing. Earl stood in the road for a long moment. He had handled trolls. He had handled swordsmen and their complications. He had handled decades of travelers and bandits and ministers and farmers and pheasants and the long, flat days and the longer, flat nights of the King's Road. He had not handled this before. He was not entirely sure what handling it would look like. Then he turned around and walked to the mage's house. Earl told me this part himself, years later, and only the once. That was his way with most things. Lapland answered the door in a state that was clearly post-sleep and pre-coherent, and when he saw Earl standing there, his expression went through several stages rapidly before settling on something that was attempting to be dignity and not quite getting there. Earl explained what he had seen, briefly and without embellishment, because he was not a man who needed embellishment. Lapland sat down, which was the right response. He looked at his hands. He looked at the floor. He looked at the small table beside his chair as if hoping to find a different conversation on it. What had happened, Lapland said carefully, was a small efficiency, an illusion in the booth during business hours, a spell of animacy on the wood itself so the work could be done without his actual presence. Just enough to function, just enough to manage the nights. And here he trailed off, because he could see Earl's face doing the thing it did when it was being patient, in a way that was considerably worse than anger. Earl asked how long. 6 months, Lapland said. Earl nodded, slowly. They went back together in the morning. Earl walked around the booth and stood in front of it for a while. He had a conversation with it of a sort, though the booth was not inclined to be forthcoming in daylight, with Lapland standing nearby, looking like a man hoping to be forgiven. It didn't matter much. Word reached them within a week. The booth and its companions had packed up in the night and headed south into Arkansas and had been swallowed by the Ozarks entirely. There were stories for years afterward, a toll booth appearing on a back road well past midnight, demanding payment in a voice that knew your name. A crew of men who moved through the hill country like smoke and left no trace. But nobody ever found them, and Earl never saw the booth again. He built a new one. Pine and good iron hardware, solid and unremarkable. He did not hire a night shift. What he did instead was have a small placard made. He hung it on the front of the new booth at eye level, where every traveler would see it before they reached the collection window. It said, "If you do not pay your toll, the booth will lunge at you. Maybe not today, maybe not on this road, but somewhere when you are least expecting it." People laughed the first time they read it. Then they thought about it for a moment. Then they paid the toll. Everyone on the King's Road knew the story by then. Stories travel faster than the people in them. The minister's account, the bandit camp, the warm light on a dark road, all of it was out there, circulating, growing slightly in the telling the way true stories do when they are also good ones. The new booth stood quiet and ordinary in the days. Earl worked it with the same attention he had always brought to the work, knowing the regulars, watching for the farmers at the edge of the road, keeping an eye on the hawks. At sunset, he closed up and went home. The night took care of itself. I'll tell you the last part of it, and then I'll let you go. Down in Arkansas, somewhere in country that has no good roads and doesn't especially want them, there is said to be a toll booth that moves. It appears on roads that don't need it, sets its own rates, keeps its own hours, and is gone by the time anyone thinks to look twice. The men traveling with it know that territory better than anyone who actually lives there. They have been at it for a decade now and show no signs of stopping. Earl has never gone looking. He figures they have their arrangement, and he has his. The King's Road runs smooth from Guthrie all the way up to Kansas City. The paper crowns at the border place are still good for a photograph. The two cousin kings are still arguing about smoked meats, and neither of them is going to stop, and the road goes on. And if you ever drive it, and you should, at least once, just to see, slow down at the south end. Have your coin ready, read the placard, pay the toll. It's a good road. Don't make it sorry it let you on.
This episode is a work of fiction. The King's Road, The kingdoms of Oklahoma and Kansas City, and all persons, trolls, wizards, bandits, and enchanted toll booths described herein are fictional. And any resemblance to a real road, two real cousins running entire kingdoms, or a real fast food chain with a star on its sign that happens to be headquartered in Oklahoma is coincidental and should not be taken as an endorsement, an invitation, or a legal claim on anyone's paper crown collection. Beto Junction may or may not exist. If you go looking for it, that's on you. We did warn you. No toll booths were harmed in the making of this episode. One was strongly encouraged to relocate to Arkansas. Read the placard, pay the toll.